Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Behind the 90 with Nneka. Before I even get into what the 90 means, before I even get into what the title is, I just want to say I just prayed. Me and Kelli just prayed. And her prayer made me really just consider, not even, well, I won't even say consider because I always knew, but it reminded me why I am doing these podcasts. And it was so refreshing to hear in her prayer because what I needed to hear that there was a reason, not to just tell people's business. There was a reason behind me establishing Behind the 90 with Nneka because I always say it's our stories that bring us all together. And it's important that we find things that will bring us together, that will unite us as opposed to divide us. Because there's so much division in the world. And if we can create opportunities to unite, oh man, how powerful we will be. And so when when Kelli prayed, it reminded me that this is for a reason. And so often me and Kelli was talking about sometimes we do things like this and the enemy will come in and say, really, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be telling your business. But really, you know what? We have a responsibility to do this. God has given us this vision and we have a responsibility and we are just being obedient. And that's what it is. And it may be painful. Sometimes it may be uncomfortable. Sometimes it may feel like, oh, no one is listening. But you know what? If one person listens, if just one person listens, that's enough for me.
Me too.
Right? So welcome, welcome, welcome back to Behind the 90 with Nneka. And again, I always like to explain what the 90 means. 90% of what we go through in life is about our past, and only 10% is about the here and now. And that's why it's so important for us to understand a person's 90% because so often we can be so judgmental and not really know a person's story. So it makes it very important to know a person's story. So I have my lovely guest back, Kelli Slavic. Kelli, I think you're the only guest that's had a part 2, a part 3, and so this is pretty cool.
You know, when I was telling everyone that I was going to do it, you and I discussed that we would probably have a part 2.
Right.
And I made a joke the other day and I said, I have turned myself into a mini series.
Exactly.
I am a mini series
right,
now.
Right. So I've done a part 2, but I've never done a part 3.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we felt it was fitting because we didn't want to rush through your story. Right. And I know a lot of people can get confused by the title or be a little curious, like, why did they title it that?
Right.
But that's what was on our heart, right? Yeah. It's why do I always end up with a cheater? But we recognize there's so much more to that title. Right. It's layers and layers to that title. Yeah. So we're back with part 3. How do you feel, Kelli?
I feel good. Good. The first one was hard for me. It's hard. It's hard to put, your business out there, so to speak, right? I think that we're kind of taught to keep things private.
Yeah.
Personal things should be kept private. But I just really felt that ugly things grow in dark places.
Yeah.
And that if you don't give light to them, right, it's just never really heal. And it, like you said, it doesn't matter if it's one person, right? If one person says, your story helped me, then that's one person.
That's it.
But I listened to part 2 and that's when I think I started to feel good.
Okay.
I feel like in part 1, I remember my thing I would say a lot was my life was 1,000 miles of bad road. Okay. Someone finally taught me to stop speaking negativity over your life, right? God says there's so much power in the words, that you say and you speak over yourself or others. So I finally said to myself, well, my life may have been 1,000 miles of bad road, but even 1,000 miles have to end at some point.
Yes.
Right. And so I just had finally told myself that was it for me. 1,000 miles was over. It was all up from here. And I just wasn't going to live like that anymore. I wasn't going to accept that I was just dealt a bad hand or I was going to live a bad life, so to speak. I had just really decided that was it. I was finally in a place to start understanding God and his love and his word And I remember feeling like I wasn't worthy of using his word, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I just remember, older ladies telling me, well, when something bad would happen, you need to use God's word. And I just felt unworthy. I thought, who am I to use God's word as power?
Wow.
And I remember that God kind of showed me something in my mind that had recently happened with my children. They're teenage girls, and I was starting to be concerned about their safety, because they're working now and
Right.
going in and out of places and, alone, and they're all driving. So I decided I wanted to get them all a little keychain of mace,
Oh yeah.
to put on. And so I remember God showing me, and just saying, would you give your children that mace, but then tell them not to use it to protect themselves?
Mm.
No. If someone's trying to harm you, you better mace them up one side and down the other, right?
That's right.
And so he told me, I gave you my word for the
Authority.
purpose of you using it to protect yourself.
That's good, Kelli.
And so it finally made me get past the point of thinking, I'm not worthy. And I don't, and I think, when you and I were in counseling one time, I discovered that I had a really hard time saying I was worthy of love.
Yeah.
I think it shocked us both.
It did.
Yeah, and I really I struggled at that point. As I said before, I never thought of myself as, insecure or these other things, but it was eye-opening to me that I struggled to say I was worthy of love. So I can see how I would think, if I'm not worthy of love from common man, I'm not worthy of all these, gifts from God, right? The Almighty. But he was starting to reveal himself to me. I was starting to understand, not being a Christian, but having a relationship with him, and how he could take all these things that had happened in my past, and turn them into something beautiful.
Wow, that is beautiful.
From divorce, I became what they call divorce care leader or facilitator. It's where people go after divorce or during separation, and it's a 12-week course, goes over 12 different subjects, of how to heal. And I thought, okay, I'm not just going to take the class, I'm going to start one, for every lemon, we'll call them, right?
Yeah.
That I felt like the world had handed me. I was going to figure out somehow, some way, that God would make lemonade out of that. And then by sharing that lemonade, right, you're helping others,
Yeah.
And that's really what I got set on. It's like every time something bad happens, I'm going to figure out. So all that time that I had thought, ooh, I'm feisty and have a bad temper, and that was a negative thing, it was turning into a good thing, because feisty, fighter me wanted to take, okay, life, you want to hand me this, I'm gonna do you one better. You can hurt me with this, but I'm gonna help 10 people. Right? It was my way of, whether you want to call it life or the devil, the enemy, whatever attack I felt like came on me, feisty me wanted to fight back. And that's how you can damage me, but I'm going to help 10 people.
Yeah, you're fighting different. The fight is different, right?
It was.
With those experiences, the fight definitely became purposeful.
Absolutely.
With a purpose.
And I understood that, when God says, nothing formed against you shall prosper, I didn't understand that. Things will come against you. They will. And they will hurt. And they might knock you down. But God will pick you back up.
Yeah.
And he will allow you to use that for his glory. And you will heal. I mean, you're not just helping others, you're healing yourself. This journey has been hard, but so healing. It feels so healing to let everything out into the light. And any encouragement, that I've heard from anybody is really just inspired me to keep talking. Don't be embarrassed. Don't let your past hold you from your future, right? You just it's I understand now. I remember thinking, why do I have to go through all this stuff? I've been through so much in life. Why did I go through it all? Like, what is it that you are trying to get me to use to help somebody? I knew I was supposed to help somebody, but I didn't know in what area.
Yeah, sometimes we feel like we got to have it all figured out, and you don't. And a lot of times when we don't have it all figured out, we stop because I can't see it. I can't see. You're not supposed to see it because if you saw it, you would be knocked off your feet. And so you're not supposed to. God has you. He has us where He wants us. And when He's ready for us to pivot and move, we'll know.
Right.
We follow our peace. And so thank you so much for just sharing that because, it's very important that our listeners know that the stories being told are being told for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not just to gain, fame or see me, see me, see me.
No.
It's not about that at all. It's really
No.
about how can we reach people? How can we build community around certain topics? The person may not be able to take the entire story and do something with it, but there are parts, there are nuggets. There's so many nuggets that if a person is really listening, they can say, oh, wow, that applies to me.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're hoping that people will do and be encouraged, and they too can tell their stories to help someone. And I think there should be nothing shameful about telling your story because, like you're right, Kelli, when you said earlier, a lot of us, we've grown, we were taught not to share. And I think we were taught not to share because one, we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be looked at as different. Everyone wants to seem as if, oh, we're all good, we're all good. No one, and we're all not good, right? So a lot of us are not good, but we want to pretend that we're good, and so therefore, let's not air out our dirty laundry because let's just kind of create this illusion of everything being, let's make sure our hair is combed, put on makeup, put on lipstick, dress nice, and on the inside you're crumbling. So I'm so glad that you have been inspired, and so many others who want to tell their stories recognize the importance of telling their stories because it's not for them, it's for others. And so I think the days of, I'm not saying that we have to share everything.
Right.
There's a season and there's a time and a place to do all those things. But I think it's very important that we recognize that when we tell our stories, we're really helping another person gain some awareness, heal, or what have you. And it's healing for you too, right?
Yes.
It's healing for the storyteller, the person who's telling the story. There's something very therapeutic about telling your story. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of that. So now the title, we go back to the title. Why do I always end up with a cheater? So we've talked about, two marriages, failed marriages.
Yes.
It's hard to say that, but that's the reality, right? That's the reality of two failed marriages. But it seems like your second marriage, it was different. There was a different experience with the person that you were married to. You had a beautiful daughter as a result of that.
Yes.
However, you did divorce.
Yes.
You did divorce. Tell me what was the healing process like when you finally divorced, when you finally knew, like, okay, this is going to end up like my first marriage? How did you process that? What was your process to getting through that?
Actually, it was the divorce care class. I was obviously seeing you, but I remember asking you. I actually remember saying, there's so many people that I know personally that have been cheated on. Excuse me. And I said, I feel like I could start my own club. And I said, there should be something out there, group wise to help people. And you said, there is. You directed me to the divorce care, and I looked it up. I found one in my, area at a local church, and I started going. It was 12 weeks. Each week is, a different subject. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this 13-week class. And when it's over, I'm going to be all better. I'm going to be healed. I didn't understand healing. Okay. So I was just so determined not to let it, I don't want to say affect me, but I just really wanted to be healed. I wanted to be healed from it. I didn't want to stay in that place. I was in such a hurry. So
I was going to say you're in
I
a
was in a
hurry.
hurry.
Yeah.
I was. But, and so I remember in the class, they teach you though that, healing. So my go-to emotion is always anger first. Okay. So I thought, all right, when I get past through anger, and then I'll get past depressed and, sad and lonely. And when I get through each one of them, then I'm going to be okay. But healing doesn't work that way. What you realize is you'll repeat all those. It's just that how often it happens, how long it lasts, and how intense it feels is what changes, right? So at first I'm feeling it every day, all the time, and, at a 10. And, maybe a couple months later, I think about it once a week, and, I'm at an 8.
When you say think about it, think about what?
The infidelity, the divorce, the hurt, the pain, the abandonment, just all of it.
Yeah. Now, how long were you married to your second husband, Kelli?
So it was from, let's see, we got together in 2009. We got married in teen, and he left in 2016. And then we got divorced like the year after that, I believe.
So about 3. We were together since 2009, but in terms of being married.
But being married,
like 3.5.
Yeah, it was
maybe
short because I feel like a year after we got married, we started having problems.
Right.
So it only lasted maybe a couple after that.
Okay. So you did divorce care. You said 13 weeks, 12 weeks?
13 weeks.
13 weeks. When you completed that, then you started to run the class.
I started my own. I went to my pastor and his wife, and I just said, I think people need this. People need this. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to turn. And, although I was seeking counseling, I felt like I needed more than, I needed something like a community of people that understood what I was going through and what I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I found that, in that group, and I said to my pastor and his wife, we need this. We need this. And they didn't ask any questions.
And so they brought it to
They said, let's do it. Yeah. They just said, let's do it. Let's, they believed in what I was saying, that people were hurting. And I want to make sure that people understand it's not that we're advocating the divorce, right? Because they think, it's a church is supporting a divorce class. We're not advocating. What we're saying is that we understand it happens, and that for the person who doesn't want it or, didn't cause it, they're hurt and wounded, and they need somewhere to go. And so the class is very biblical. It's although it goes through the human emotions, it's how God can help you through those. So they were very open and very supportive and happy to help me live out my dream of running my own class.
So you were facilitating divorce care classes. The church, knew that was available at the church, and you had people coming. And were people that you have to, I don't want to say recruit, but you put it out there that the classes were available.
You have to advertise, that you're having a class. The organization, that runs it, they have a website you can go on, and if you're looking for something, so you can post on there, that your church offers it, where you're located and what time, and, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. So you were doing that. Do you feel like that helped you to heal, being around a community of people
definitely
who had experienced some of the things that you had experienced? You felt like that was a place that could understand you. Okay.
Yeah. I came across a lot of women, men too, but women, who were cheated on, and then they would be so focused on, what that man made them feel like, that it led me, after our 13 weeks were over, I had like a small Bible study with a small group of women that had been cheated on. And we started, studying what God thinks of us.
Yeah.
When you fully start to understand your worth in God, your worth in that one man, it definitely does not compare, right? You're starting to understand that if God thinks this of you, right? He says you are more precious than rubies or, jewels. And when you start to understand that, what that one person before, that hurt you, made you feel like, it starts to fade away. It's it's healing to understand that that's one man's, thoughts or feelings or opinions or actions, and how they made you feel. But when God
Yeah.
thinks that you're precious, I feel like it started to heal something in us, and to help us get past that.
Okay. That's good. So, like you said, you turn those lemons into lemonade. Like you said, your mission was, you know what? I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to get myself. I'm going to rise above this pain, and then I'm going to help some other people.
Yes.
You just hit the devil mad at you.
I did.
You're like, girl, sit down somewhere.
Can't stand you.
Right? What are you doing? You were not supposed to. This was not supposed to come out of a divorce.
Not how that was supposed
you were
to
supposed
happen.
to just be mad at the world. That wasn't what happened. Yeah. Like, how can I help?
And I think in my first marriage, I started to fill those holes that I was feeling with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And this time, he probably thought, okay, let's shoot some more holes in her and she's going to start drinking again. And I was like, that's not what's going to happen.
No.
Not this time. And that was something I learned, right? You're going to feel like there's holes in your soul after you've been cheated on or divorced. Be careful what you fill them with.
Wow. That's good. So, okay. That's very inspiring. For a person that's listening, I mean, wow. That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
That you didn't stay in that dark place.
Not
this was your second divorce. You're just like,
I'm not going to do that.
I'm not doing
that again.
Yeah.
I had also, I heard a sermon the other day someone did on rejection. And when I listened, she was explaining rejection. If you leave rejection in the hands of God, it's only redirection. And I thought, wow, that was so powerful for me, because all this rejection I felt my whole life. At the time, my dad left me when I was a kid, right? I had another stepdad, that had left me, and a husband, that left me, and then another husband that had left me. So I'd felt this so much rejection. And when I listened to that, it was really life-changing for me, because you're not for everybody.
That is true.
And that's okay, right?
You don't want to be.
No, and you exactly.
You don't.
Right? Because here I am trying to keep myself with these men who really don't understand my worth. They don't. But I didn't either. I didn't understand my worth. So expecting them to, didn't make sense either. But I was finally starting to understand that God was allowing these rejections because I didn't know my worth.
Yeah.
And that I was on a journey to learn my worth, and that any rejection I felt was just redirection, because that's not where I belonged. Right. I wasn't going to live out my purpose in any of those places.
That's right, but you had to go through them.
I did.
To be here where you are today. So after the divorce care, what were your feelings in regards to dating again? After you've been divorced 2 times, did you feel like you wanted to get back out there, or were you a little reluctant? What were your feelings in regards to dating and remarrying?
All of the above. I didn't think, I want to be alone forever, but I surely thought I would never get married again.
You felt that?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that?
I didn't know if I was going to trust anybody ever again. I was obviously struggling with trust. I was happy by myself. I had just bought a house, for me and my daughter, financially able to take care of myself, on fire, right? Thinking I'm healing and growing and helping and learning, and was just on a good journey. I was on a good path. And I remember telling myself, if God loves me, doesn't matter if another man ever does.
Wow, that's good.
I was perfectly content finally with being alone and being whoever, I was going to be.
Okay.
And if someone came along, okay. And if they didn't, that was okay. But I didn't know that I would ever marry again, because that meant I had to trust somebody with so much. And I didn't think anybody I would never find anybody that I would think was to that standard, that I would fully trust them.
Okay. So let's fast forward. You said you were content with being with Kelli.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spending time with Kelli, dating Kelli, getting to know Kelli, with your little baby girl, all those things.
I also learned in divorce class, focus on the things that you probably wouldn't do if you were married, right? Instead of feeling bad about them. So I remember like Valentine's Day, I had a dinner party, we had pasta and wine. I gave everybody a journal. We just had a single women just hanging out and enjoying Valentine's Day in a different kind of way.
That's good.
So I was just happy. I was content. I was, living life, and I had peace about where I was.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So with peace comes, that level of attractiveness.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so confident now.
You're so confident, and you're open. Like you said, you're open to dating, not necessarily being married, but you were open to dating.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was the dating? When did you start dating again?
I really don't know, honestly. Again, it takes a little while. I feel like the first couple times I went on a date was more just like a male friend, right? Just I wasn't looking for, we'll say, a romantic relationship. Just maybe a male companion, a friend, maybe somebody to do things with or whatever. And I think that's where I wanted to stay. That was comfortable, right? Okay. Just having a male friend that maybe you could, have lunch with or dinner, or, have some companionship, but I wasn't ready for any, romantic relationship.
Right. Okay.
I did decide, well, how do you meet people? Right? I go to a very, very, very small church, and I kept thinking, well, nobody's going to just walk into church because it's so small. And so I went on a dating website and, put my profile on there. And a couple of days later, I went back and I had over 80 messages.
What?
I know, 80. So then I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That I couldn't do it. I ended up not doing it. It was overwhelming for me. I thought, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect
that. You're a beautiful person, Kelli.
Thank you.
Men are visual people. I mean, although it's inside out with you, right, for
but
sure.
My coworker was the one who encouraged me, and she had been on there a few years, and she was teasing me. She said, "What kind of picture did you post?" I said, "It was just a normal picture. I don't know, but it did build my confidence more, right? It's like, oh, look at me, maybe he didn't want me, but, there's 80 other possibilities out there.
80 others, wow. We're fishing the sea.
Yeah.
So how did that go? So did you follow through with any dates on there?
I did not. I may have had a couple conversations, but like I said, it was just so overwhelming that I didn't get very far with it. And then a few days later, this is how quickly, it happened. Because I feel like I did it over the weekend, and then, I was talking to my girlfriend at work on Monday, and then I looked in it. I was like, I have 80 messages, and then we joked about it. And I didn't get far with it. A couple of days later was Bible study at church. And so I'm at church. Like I always am on a Wednesday night at that time in my life. And a friend of mine texts me and says, she's in the area. She's going to come to Bible study. So I said, okay. So I'm standing by the door. I'm waiting for her. She comes in, and then right behind her comes this man who I'd never seen before. An attractive man.
Small church.
Yeah, small church. Here comes this nice looking man. And I said, hi, who are you looking for? And he asked for my pastor's wife, and I told him where to go, and my friend's elbowing me, like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen him before,
You guys, like little girls.
Yeah. So anyways, we sit down, whatever. So fast forward, we're at work the next day. And the friend who came to church is still like, are you going to ask your pastor's wife who that guy was? And, ask about him. And I said, no, I'm not going to ask about him. Stop saying that. And she just kept saying, come on, you should, he was looking at you, again, we sound like two teenagers. And so finally it was like the end of the day. And I thought, I don't want to do this all day again tomorrow. Right. So I was like, I messaged the guy. I went on Facebook. I found him. I'd heard her say his name. So, I knew I was getting an idea of who he was. So I went on, her Facebook and I found him and I messaged him. Now, we're not Facebook friends. Let me just say that. But, I sent him a message and I had just had 80 messages in my inbox on my dating site. So I'm real confident at this point.
I know you're going to want me.
And if you don't, that's okay. There's still 80 other fish in the sea.
I know.
So I was very, blunt. I just said, hey, what's your story? My pastor's wife had spoke very highly of him. So I mentioned that, and he was very muscular. So I said, I could tell you like to work out. Basically, other than that, what's your story? Are you single?
Okay, right.
Just whatever.
Put it out there.
I didn't think any more of it. One, I feel like when you message someone that you don't know, you never really know if they get it. But I thought at least my friend will stop asking me. So I finally said, there. I messaged him directly. Are you happy? And I really didn't want anybody to know I messaged him. So that's why I didn't ask about him. Right. And she said, you did? Yeah, whatever. So then the next day, my pastor's wife calls me and she said, did you message, so-and-so? And I thought, oh man, how'd you find out? And she said, because I guess he messaged you back, but then he said you never responded. So he had contacted her and said, hey, your friend messaged me and I responded and, I gave her my number and asked her to call me and she never did.
So you didn't see it?
No, I just didn't look again.
Oh, you didn't look again?
I didn't look again. I really, I'm in my good space. I didn't care if he answered or not.
80 other guys that were kind of like knocking at your door.
Plenty of vision to see. So I didn't look again. So then, of course, then I looked and I saw it. And I thought, oh, okay. So I texted him, I said, I got your message. I'm not available to talk right now. I can try later. So I go on about my day. And again, I still really don't care. Right? I don't. So I'm going on about my day with my daughter. And by the time I get her to bed and I have, a moment to talk, I text him and it was like 10 o'clock at night.
Look at you.
Right. 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so I said, I just had finally be able to talk, but I know it's late. Maybe we can make it another day. And he said, no, now's fine.
Okay.
It was like, so I thought,
one of those 80.
Yeah. So I thought, okay. So I called him and we just had like this 2-hour, I think, talk. Small world. We knew some of the same people. Flawless. Just this flawless conversation. I thought I would be nervous. It's easy to text someone or message someone, but, it's a little harder, to have a real conversation. But it was flawless. Wow. It went really good. And he asked me on a date. He said, can I take you out on Saturday? And I said, okay.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you start dating? Did you guys start dating? Or how was the first date?
It was great.
Okay. So obviously there was a second date.
Yeah. And there's, butterflies and this is great and it feels good. And
what made it feel good?
I was happy that I met someone in church. I was happy that I met someone that, knew God. I was in a good place. So I felt like I was going to, my expectations were going to be different. I wasn't going to accept just anything. I'm thinking I'm going to be more aware of red flags, what I deserve, what I don't deserve. I just thought I'm just really going to get it right this time. I'm ready. I'm confident. Right. I'm healed. Wow. I thought I'm going to do well this time. Yeah. I'm equipped.
Yeah. How did he show up? How did he show up to get your attention like he did?
He was such a gentleman, bringing me flowers, opening my door, just made me feel like I was very important. I was a priority to him. acknowledging that he understood, a woman, in your life as a gift from God. All the right things.
Right.
He's doing and saying all the right things. We would go to Bible study together and then go to dinner. We read the Bible together. I just remember one time we were sitting there and kind of had my head on his chest and he was reading it out loud and I thought, this is
This
it.
is it.
This is it. It's finally it. Oh,
Finally.
finally gonna get it right. I don't want to say they did or didn't. I think they were very cautious.
They were.
They were very, very cautious. They had seen me hurt, the last time because they were old enough, and very protective. And I don't think they didn't see him in the same light I did. I can't, speak for them, but I think that the red flags were there for them.
For them,
Mm-hmm.
but not for you.
Yeah.
Did they ever tell you?
They never named anything specifically. Mm-hmm. They just would say they didn't say they didn't like him. Mm-hmm. They were just cautious. They just don't want you to get hurt, those types of things. Mm-hmm. But then I think they saw how well he treated me and how happy I was, and that I would express that I felt like no one had ever treated me the way he did.
He just took, when you say treated, did he really take good care of you?
He just took care of me in every way, shape, or if it snowed out, can I drive you to work? If I expressed anything that I wanted done, around the house, it was top priority. My phone calls were top priority. He'd be in the middle of working and I'd say, if you're busy, you don't have to answer. He'd say, I just want to make sure everything's okay. Is everything? Yeah, everything's okay. Okay, I'll call you later. But it was just, I was his number one priority. My happiness was very, very important to him, was his number one priority. Okay. And I'd never felt like that before.
Being a priority.
And someone sharing, wanting to go to church and, live that life. And he had said, same, he had been through a lot, made a lot of mistakes, and that he felt like this was his second chance, that God was giving him a, second chance, and that, he really wanted to do it right.
Okay. So the dating relationship was great. It was great. Just based on all the things that you just said, it does sound really great.
It was great.
How long? So dating relationship was great. What developed as a result of the great dating relationship?
He proposed very quickly. We were probably, after 6 months, got engaged. Okay. And 6 months later, we were married.
Okay.
From our first date to our wedding day was a year.
A year. Okay. Yeah. So when he asked you, what were did you expect him to ask you to marry?
I felt like he had expressed several times, in different ways, that he just really felt like this was it, for him. He would say, he was married before as well,
okay.
So he would say, I just feel like this is God's giving me a second chance. There were just things about me that he expressed, that he was looking for. He felt like I, helped him be a better person.
Okay.
He just felt like we were meant to be together. So we had several conversations, that this was probably what was going to happen.
Okay. So when he asked you, did you answer right away? Yes, or
like cute movie scene. He took me to the water and out on a dock, and got down on one knee and said, "Will you marry me?" And
what were you thinking?
I was just like, I might even have been jumping up and down because we were on a dock over the water, and I remember him saying, he kept thinking, "Oh my God, I hope I don't drop this ring."
Oh wow, yeah.
Because I was just excited and happy and probably jumping up and down a little bit and hugging him. And
for sure. Was it just the two of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so did you know that was going to happen that day? Did you have some type of...
No, we had obviously, like I said, we had discussions.
Right.
We had looked at rings, it wasn't like it was, but I didn't know the when, the where, the how, the day. No, all that was a surprise.
But you knew he wanted to...
I knew he wanted to marry me.
Make you his wife.
Yes.
You knew that.
I knew that.
So you said yes. seeing that you said your kids, well, 'cause they were adults at this time,
Yes.
they were kind of hesitant to
Mm-hmm.
fully embrace him.
Yeah.
How did you go to them and say, "Hey, I'm marrying him"?
I mean, I told them, and I think they just thought it was too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I remember saying to myself, wow, this is going really fast. And I said to him, it's kind of fast, right? Things are
Mm-hmm.
going really fast. Is this too fast? He always knew exactly what to say to make me feel better. He'd say, whose timeline are you living on? Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is our timeline. Like, we're going to do what we want to do, what makes us happy, and not let everybody, judge what we should or shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
Right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
I'm happy. I know I'm happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I thought that any judgment or hesitation, or this
Mm-hmm.
is going too fast, from my family was just because they love me and they didn't want to see me get hurt
Absolutely.
again,
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that's all it was. And any fears or worries that I had, I felt, well, you're just having a hard time trusting.
Yeah.
You've been cheated. You've been married
Mm-hmm.
twice. You've been cheated on twice, and you're just having a
Mm-hmm.
hard time trusting someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why you would say yes. I can
Yeah.
see
Oh yeah.
that. I can see that. But at the same time, being a little reluctant, no, because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it was just that
Yeah.
those mixed emotions.
Yeah.
You knew how he was treating you. He was treating you really good. He was very
Felt so
attentive. You
good.
were a priority, and you
Absolutely.
had never felt that out of your two marriages. You had never felt
No.
that level of intention,
No.
right?
Never. Mm-mm.
Okay. So you said yes. You get married.
Yeah. Living happily ever after.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. I remember thinking that, after my last marriage, after a year, you're like, oh, things started to change, right? So I feel like, it's a year, it's a couple years, I'm still a priority, things are going well. Not that we didn't have, again, normal marriage
Yeah,
troubles.
absolutely.
We went
Yeah.
through some financial ups and downs, but every Saturday was date night.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday night was date night. My young daughter's with her dad on that night. And so that was, we worked and hustled and took care of whatever we had to take care of. But on Saturday night, Saturday was our day
Priority.
that we made each other the priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at some point, he even started on Friday, if he got home from work before I did, because he would clean the house. Because on Friday I would come home and I would clean. So that Saturday was our date day, really.
Date day.
Yeah. And then Sunday was church. But I remember he started even coming home on Fridays before me, and he'd clean the house so that we even had more time,
Wow.
Yeah. I don't want you to have to do this when you get home. So that night we would come home and, maybe get a carry out, lay on the couch, watch a movie. I'm like, this man is coming home after work, after a hard day's work, and cleaning the house so he can have more of my time.
And that was just validating you. Like,
yes,
I made the right decision.
Did.
I got it right this time.
I did it this time.
I did it. And this went on for how long?
Few years.
Few years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Few years.
Okay. Few years. Living life.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So then after a few years of, a great marriage, a great husband, he had a career change. And it was way more demanding. We were starting to lose some date nights a little bit, here and there. But he would say to me, I've got to have a night off. He would express that he missed it. I missed date night. I miss my time with you. Because I'd say, don't worry about it, right? I get it. When he started in this new career, he said, I need you to give me a year. I'm going to have to work really hard for a year, to get this going. He was starting his own business. So I had signed up for it. Okay. I knew that.
He told you.
He told me. He asked me. I said, okay, yes. We've had a few good years. We're strong. We're in a good place. His parents had been married at that point for over 50 years.
Wow.
So he would always tell me, this is it for me. You and I are going to end up, like my parents. We weren't old enough to make it 50 years, but, we're lifers. This is it for us, right? So I thought, we have built a relationship strong enough to withstand a rough year, right? Financially, he's doing great. So now he's an amazing provider,
Wow.
On top of all those other things. There was never anything I'd ever asked for, and it didn't matter, that he would tell me no.
He'll be making a way to get it for you.
Yeah, I want to work hard so you can have everything you've never had before. So it just keeps getting better. Our time together was, less, but, he was doing other things, and I would say, don't worry about it. It's okay. We're going to make it through this year. But he would say, no, I need it too. Like, I need my time with you, right? So we'd squeeze it in here, there, wherever, we could, lunches, So we're making it work. And then at the end of the year, the season for that business had got to a point where it starts to struggle. So now we're struggling financially and really bad, but he's still working hard. So he's gone a lot still.
Okay.
And now he's working harder and more because it wasn't doing well financially.
Okay.
Right? So now we're starting to have, money issues, and our time together is even less, and everything is very stressful. And when you have money problems, that, causes some other things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but I do remember getting to a point saying to him, we can't, because our year was up, right? We had did the year that
working very hard.
Yeah. And I remember saying, okay, we can't keep going like this though. Because I felt like we're living two separate lives. He's working all the time and I'm trying to fill my time with other things. So I'm, not feeling lonely or neglected or, things like that. So I'm, I'm staying busy and doing things with friends or my kids or family or whatever. But I remember saying, we can't keep going like this.
Right.
It's not good for a marriage. You can't keep living that life and I'm living this life and we don't have any time for each other. I think he got a glimpse of what he wanted for himself personally, professionally, in that way. And it started to take him over. I could start to see that at some point we were arguing about that.
About the time.
About his time not being home. Or I'd say, do you really have to go to that meeting tonight? Because I remember saying to him, when I can't take anymore, I'll let you know. Because he was always concerned before, how I was and if it was okay. And this,
it shifted.
Yeah.
You weren't getting the time that you were getting was so probably an abundance of time. And so it was like an exaggeration. It went from all to nothing, it sounds like. And so there was an apparent difference.
Yeah. And I remember saying to him, okay, I'm at, excuse me, I found my limit. Something has to change. I can't keep living like this.
So he wasn't willing to make any adjustments. So when you would say that, he wasn't willing to make any adjustments.
He was getting to a point, yes, where he would stop making adjustments. And I remember, when things started getting bad, he'd say, I need you to stop competing with this.
Wow.
And that's when I knew this is not the person I married anymore.
He changed.
Something
started to change.
Yeah. And I remember, when it started, the change was more slight. I'd say, is everything okay? And he'd say, yeah, why? And, I'd explain whatever I was feeling. And he'd say, listen, I might have been experiencing some insecurities, about, he said, I was always so afraid of losing you. He said, I'm just in a comfortable place, but I mean that in a good way. So, and he was trying to turn it around. Instead of making me feel like he was neglecting me, he had turned it around. So he was just trying to say, I'm very confident in our marriage and I'm comfortable and confident that we can withstand what we're going through. Right. He was very good, like I said, saying the right things to kind of ease whatever, fear I'm having. So he's like, no, we're good. I'm just comfortable in our marriage. And I feel like our marriage is in a good place that I can really focus on my career.
Did you believe that?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. I thought, okay, he just really wants, because he would say, I want to give you everything you've never had. And, I want us to have this life, and we're getting older and we need to think about the future.
Retirement, yeah. Which is,
yeah,
that makes
all those
sense.
things. Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Okay, all right.
Right. So at what point did you get fed up with it? At what point did you feel like, now this is just too much?
Too much.
Yeah. When did
So
you
I
say
remember
that?
saying, it was almost like he was just obsessed. He was never home. I remember saying, it was a Saturday night, and I said, take 1 hour, 1 hour. Let's go to the corner for 1 hour and have dinner. Because he would even work, sit in the living room. Like if we'd watch a movie or something, he'd be working while we were watching the movie.
Whereas before you would have his undivided
attention.
Then it went to,
I'm sharing his attention. Even when he's home, what attention he gives me, I'm sharing with his work.
So he had started being married to his work. That was his love.
Yeah.
He's having a love affair with work.
Yeah. And so I'd say to him this one time, let's go to the corner and just have dinner for an hour, without work. And, then let's come back and watch a movie. And if you need to get back to work, okay. He wouldn't go.
He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't go.
So what did that say to you?
That there's something more going on.
Like what did you think?
I immediately started thinking he's having an affair.
Okay. So did you ask him?
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you start thinking it, you did go to him and ask him that question. What did you say?
There was an incident. It wasn't that night, but that night was the real eye-opener for me. Because I remember I got dressed. I thought, I'm going to dinner. I'm having date night.
With yourself?
I said, I'm having date night. Either you're going to go or you're not. And I got dressed. I got dressed up and I put on my little black dress and I did my hair and my makeup and I went down to the corner and I sat there by myself and had date night.
Wow.
And he never came.
And he saw that
I did it, and I thought, that's not him.
That's so
There's
not
no
him.
way that man would have let me leave this house in that black dress and go down to the corner and have dinner alone.
Okay. And he did.
You
said that the entire dinner was solo.
The entire dinner, and I just sat there.
So did he stay home?
No, he left and went to whatever he was working on. Okay.
So you said because things changed so drastically with him, you did ask, you felt like,
so after that night, I was like, there's something not right. So shortly after, I don't remember, he told me he was somewhere, and coincidentally, a friend of mine was, at the place he said he was, and she said, he's not here. And that's when I came right outside. I called them and I asked him where he was and whatever. He had left there to get he gave me this big story, and I just said, what's going on?
Yeah.
I didn't beat around
the bush. This was over the phone.
Yeah. What's going on? He said, what do you mean? I said, what's going on? I said, are you with someone? Where were you? You're not where you said you were. And he just like, what's wrong with you? Like something was wrong with me, that I was jumping to those conclusions. I've never given you reason not to trust me, he said. And he hadn't. At this point. Okay. His behavior had changed, but there was, he was always very open about, these are my passwords. This is my password to my phone. This is my password to my Facebook. This is my, he had he knew what I needed in the trust area and had always provided it. You are free to look through my phone, anytime you want, because he knew the phone was a big anxiety for me, a man being on his phone or not being open to you looking at his phone or whatever. So he was always meeting my needs in the trust area. But this one time I said, where are you? And he told me where he was. And I said, I need you to pull over. And because at this point I'm driving around looking for him where he said he was going to be. And, and then I'm calling him. Where are you? And he said where he was. And I said, I need you to pull over. He was getting a coffee. So I went to where he was physically. And he got out of his car. And he came and he got in my car for us to talk. And I remember saying, can I see your phone? And he said, it's in my truck. And I said, can you get your phone? I want to see your phone. And he said, what's going on with you? Why are you acting like that? It saw it twist real quick. The man who would have said, yeah, here you go.
Here's your phone. Here's my
phone. Was all of a sudden turning the tables like, what's wrong? Why are you acting like this? Why why are you asking me these questions? Because I had already been saying, where are you? Where were you? What's going on? Are you seeing someone? I started the accusations, we'll say.
Yeah.
And he, was trying to twist it and said, I've never done anything for you not to trust me. Why are you acting this way? He never let me see his phone.
Okay.
We ended up having an argument, and he gave me the whole, if you can't trust me, if you can't trust me or you don't trust me, how can we have this marriage, or something like that. And I knew in my soul that something was going on.
Yeah.
But you're in this period of, you have that gut feeling, but you don't have anything to go on.
Yeah. And you're familiar with that feeling.
I'm familiar with that feeling.
You're familiar with that
But he had a really good way of making me think that it was my past
that was creating
this anxiety and doubt and mistrust in him, because he had never done anything to cause me to behave that way.
Yeah. But his behavior shifted so much where he wouldn't allow you to spend much time alone. No. Without him. Okay.
No, he wanted all my free time in the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
And I wasn't used to that, so that was an adjustment for me too. Kind of, I remember saying to my girlfriend, "Whew, I don't know, it was a little too much." It's like everything I asked for, but a little too much, right? And we would kind of joke.
Yeah.
So when he eased off a little bit, it was good.
It felt right,
because I thought, we're in a good, comfortable place now, right? I can still do things with my girlfriends, and I still have my me time, and but every Saturday night, everybody knew that was our night, right?
Right.
But it wasn't to the point where he was trying to consume all my time anymore.
Right. So like you said, it felt a little balanced.
It felt balanced when he started to, for a while.
Like you said, things shifted when the money changed. The assignment that he was on didn't pan out the way he wanted it to, because before the money was flowing, and so he probably felt good.
Yeah.
Felt he could provide.
Yes.
And then the minute he couldn't provide, he went.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember my dad telling me a long time ago, you don't know what it's like for a man not to be able to provide for his family. So I thought, okay, it's that, I was using I don't want to say using, but I was trying to identify it as, something else, right? He's struggling in his career. He's not providing well. I knew he was a prideful man, so I thought, this is really, troubling for his ego, and he's, going through something. But until that day, I didn't think it was cheating. I thought it was some, personal, professional, whatever he was struggling with, getting older.
And I think when men go through things, it sounds like in each of your relationships, the men, there's some kind of commonality there where they were going through something, right?
Yeah.
And so, men experience mental illness, whether it's anxiety, depression. A lot of men suffer with anxiety, and they don't necessarily say anything about it, but they know that feeling is very uncomfortable. They won't say they're suffering from anxiety, but a lot of men are suffering from anxiety. And with that, I think they are looking for, a lot of men won't take medicine. So they're looking for other ways to self-medicate, whether it's through drugs, alcohol, women, or what have you. In your case, it was like men, they're cheating. It's just like there's something that you need and you feel like you can't get it, and you have this anxiety. So in order to cope with whatever it is that you're going through, you make poor decisions or what have you. So that's what I find very troubling, is that there are so many of our men out there that are struggling with anxiety and not really taking the necessary steps to get themselves some help. So they make poor decisions. So they run from, relationship to relationship.
I thought that his poor decision was that he was pouring himself into his work and trying to prove something to himself in that way. I had always thought my husband to be the kind of man that I could tell he liked attention, but I also could tell that he liked the part where he wasn't available, right? Like, no, I'm taken.
Right.
That was,
he liked that.
He liked that. Yeah. It's like,
he was proud
you can
to
look
say,
at me,
"You're
but
my wife."
yeah. Yeah. And he would always, brag that I was a good wife and, that I took good care of him and that he was happy and, his needs were met. And, he just, and so, yeah, I really did not think that I was going to go through a cheater again.
Yeah. So what happened? So when did you discover that that's what it was? Because like you said, he had this love affair with his job, which from what you're saying, I believe that was what it was.
I believe that's what it really was in the
originally.
beginning.
Yeah, it was.
But I could also tell that things, started to change for him. So he was putting his job before his marriage. Mm-hmm. Before, he would never have a meeting with a female alone, and he was starting to do that. Just everything was starting to change. So
he would take you with him?
No, he would invite, a member of his team or something. He was just, very cautious about, maintaining good. We had discussed what we thought were good, healthy boundaries in our marriage. And those were unimportant to him too. So it wasn't just our time, but, things that we agreed were good, healthy. We called them guardrails. I had heard this used one time. They say guardrails are on the expressway, not because you think you're going to drive your car off the road, but just in case you do, to prevent you from driving. So that's what we had discussed. We were going to have certain guardrails in our marriage, not because I thought he was going to cheat or he thought I was, but we were just going to keep these certain guardrails in our marriage to keep our marriage safe.
You don't put yourself in a position, right?
Yes.
So you don't put yourself in a position to be tempted or...
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that had started to change too. So not only were we not spending time together, he wasn't respecting the boundaries that we had agreed upon. And I'm starting to see that, everything is more important than me. And when I say he's spending zero time with me, zero. And so I started to ask myself, I said to him, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the time that you do want to spend with me now is a carry out in a movie. I said, something's going on. You don't want to be seen out in public anymore.
What did he say to that?
That's not true.
Okay. Did it change?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not, naive. I'm noticing these. But again, until you, I want to say, catch somebody red-handed, what do? You can tell them, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
I've recognized that you don't go out in public with me anymore. I recognize that everything is more important than me. And I recognize that you no longer respect the boundaries of our marriage. But here I am again. I'm surely not going to get divorced again. I'm going to fight through this. We're going to go to counseling. We're going to talk about what our issues are, and we're going to work it out. We're going to figure it out.
Let me ask you this. Was he showing up at home? Was he sleeping in the same bed with you? Were you guys,
at first, yes. At some point, then it was he was traveling. He was in politics, so he would be in Lansing a lot. He would, and I remember saying, you can't drive home from Lansing? And he'd say, well, not if I have another meeting, early in the morning. So he'd spend the night in Lansing. So here we go. Here come all the red flags, right? He's traveling. Okay, so now he's not only consumed with work, but now he's traveling all the time.
So he's not always coming home.
Okay.
So that's another layer.
That's a whole nother layer of, whole nother type of red flag.
Yeah.
So the red flags are flying in, but I don't know what to do. We're going to counseling. He's really not giving. And so something finally happened that made me, have to, forced us. Out of nowhere, I went and got a mammogram and found out that I had breast cancer. So this is, a summer of basically hell, right? We had just, our marriage is going through hell. He's not giving. He's not coming home. He's, all these things are going on. I'm so unhappy.
Right.
And then it's October, breast cancer awareness, go get your boobies checked. And I never, I had breast cancer.
You got checked and you had breast cancer.
I had stage 3, very aggressive breast cancer.
And this is just your routine?
Just as a routine.
You hadn't felt anything?
I did start having some issues and that I thought were off. So I'll say this for the fact of in case somebody doesn't know, because I didn't. I had some fluid leaking from my nipple.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was a sign.
Okay.
I just thought, I don't know. I thought, it was, I don't know what I thought. I just thought, okay, I'm having an issue. I don't know what's going on. And, I really didn't know. I didn't know that was a sign, but it is a sign of the type of breast cancer I have because it was in my milk duct. The cancer had started, and that is a sign. So
it is a sign.
I wasn't going to get too personal about the cancer part, but I feel like that is important to share because I didn't know.
Right.
So there was a sign, I just didn't know it. And then I go for my checkup, and I have aggressive stage 3 breast cancer.
And so you tell him this?
I tell him. So he comes home one day, comes back in town, from work, and I told him I need to talk to him, tell him I have breast cancer, and he just starts sobbing. He's sobbing. So fast forward, a little bit. He's going to all my appointments with me. And
he is, okay.
He's figuring it out. He's still working like crazy, and none of that had changed, but he's figuring out, like, whenever I have an appointment, make sure he's he's going with me to the appointment, to the doctor visits, and we're making decisions, and time's going on, and so we get to the point where I say I'm going to be off work and I'm going to have to do chemo. So I tell him, you're going to have to stop traveling in December for about 6 months. That was my treatment time. And he's telling me he can't. Now more than ever, he can't because we're going to need the money.
Right.
Because I can't work. So he's got to supplement that income. And so I'm telling him, we'll figure that out. When I go to chemo, I'm going to need you to be here physically. And I can't, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I can't be stressed about where you're going and what you're doing. And if you are doing something or who you're with, I can't do that.
Right.
They had basically told me, now is the time, more than ever, you have to be selfish. Take care of yourself. You can't have any stress. I'm at a critical point.
Right.
And so I say to him, you have to stop. And he is not willing to stop.
He's not willing to stop work. But if you think about it, like you said, if he's trying to provide, he wants to be able to, you're not working. And I can see why you want him there.
Yeah.
But can you also see that he probably not traveling as much, but he needed to work.
He needed to work. Yeah. But I said, I'm sure if you go to the group, that you're working with and you say, my wife has cancer, we're going to figure out a way that you don't have to travel.
As much.
Not to say that you don't have to work.
Exactly.
But you don't have to travel.
Right.
So that lasted about a week or two. He didn't travel. And then one day he came in and he said, I said, what's wrong? I could tell something's wrong. He said, I got to tell you something. I know you're going to be upset. I have to leave town. I felt like I knew that there was more going on than work. I also knew that I could not handle the stress of where you are and what you're doing. I just couldn't do it. And I remember saying to him, did you go to them and tell them that I have cancer and you can't travel? And he said, no. If I do that, I'm going to lose my job. And I said, then get a different job. Right? Get a different job. Just go get a job and be home, and be home at night, basically, right? Because someone can take me to chemo and whatever, but, I need someone to be home with me at night.
Yeah.
And that's all I was asking. And he wasn't willing to budge. And so I'd got to a point where I remember thinking back, to my prior marriage, thinking I had a baby for a man who was not willing to go to counseling, right? I had a baby to save our marriage. But when that didn't work, you weren't willing to go to counseling. And I just remember feeling like that I was at that point again. I had done anything and everything to support him, and this career and give me a year. And I'd given him way more than that. And I thought, this is my time now. I know I need you to put me first like you used to.
Right.
So it wasn't that he wasn't capable or I hadn't seen him show up that way before. I'm just asking you to show up the way you used to for me. And when he wasn't willing, I said, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move out. I can't take the
The
stress.
stress, that's right.
I can't. I have to put myself first.
Yeah, you don't need to be worried about is he going to show up at home or not. You don't need that.
Let me backtrack a little bit. He was gone for the weekend, and I was supposed to have chemo on that Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he would be home in time to take me. This is the incident that boiled over into that. And I remember that morning, not only was he not there, but he didn't answer his phone that day until 3:00 in the afternoon.
Wow.
So I missed my first treatment. And that was when I said,
the first treatment.
I missed my first treatment.
So here you have breast cancer. Well, it started, your marriage started to
have problems.
You started to have problems in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get this diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
of breast cancer. You tell your husband, he sobs and he's hurt, he's upset, but he's not willing to
budge,
to support you the way you need to be supported.
Yeah.
And so the first treatment, he gave you a glimpse of what it was going to be like, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
He didn't show up.
And
he did not only show up, but the fact that he didn't answer the phone, I was having so much stress and anxiety. Mm-hmm. I remember calling his parents, telling them, I think something happened. I thought he'd gotten in an accident. Right. I remember calling my best friend and saying, I think something. And she's saying to me, I can't believe that, I was going to have to go through something like that I have breast cancer, and maybe something had happened to my husband at the same time.
Because you couldn't
imagine that he wouldn't answer my call. He had never done anything like that.
It's something, especially during such a
critical moment in my life,
in your life, to not show up.
Here's the man who drove me to work when it snowed out, but didn't show up to take me to my first chemo.
So when you did get in contact with him, what did he say?
His phone was broke.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. So where were you? I know we got to, accelerate things a little bit.
Yeah.
But when he said that, based on who you are and what you've gone through, what did you think of that?
I knew he was lying.
Okay.
I knew something was going on. I knew he was having an affair. I still couldn't prove it, but I just basically said, get your clothes and leave. Mm-hmm. I just... a lady had told me one time, my friend's a mom, she said when she found out she had breast cancer, she found out her husband was cheating. And the doctor said, you can save your life or your marriage. So in that moment, even though I had no proof yet that, he was cheating, I knew.
You knew something.
I knew that he was cheating, and those words were there. You can either save your life or your marriage. And I was choosing my life.
Yeah.
And I just said, pack your clothes and get out.
What did he say to that? Because did you say, listen, I know that you're having an affair? Did you say that?
No, I didn't say that. No, because he was, I had mentioned things before, but no, I just said that I didn't believe him anymore and I didn't trust him. But I didn't say, no, you're having an affair. Mm-hmm. At that moment. I just said, take your clothes and leave. And he basically said, you're giving me an ultimatum between my job and my marriage. And I said, yes. Because your job has become more important than your marriage. My health cannot handle the fact that you are with people all day long. You couldn't have grabbed somebody's phone and called me and said my phone was broke. Yeah. Come on now. I'm not that stupid. Right? Come on. It was right. Just getting insulting now. And so to accelerate the story, he moved out. He would every now and then call me and say, can I come over? Can we talk? I'd say yes. He'd come over, he'd sit there, he'd cry. We would never make any progress. He just kept saying, I never wanted to hurt you. That's all he would say. I'd never wanted to hurt you. I don't know what he wanted to tell me in that moment. I don't know if he was going to confess. I don't know if he was going to confess and say, can we work it out? Was he going to confess and say, we got to get a divorce? I don't know where that was going, and I stopped trying to figure all that out. But moving forward, he was having an affair. She was married. She was a public figure. She was a lady on our city council. When I confronted her, she lied for him because she was married and she was a public figure and she didn't want anyone to know. But eventually, he filed for divorce. And, our divorce was final. And eventually, one day, he finally came clean. And he said, I just did something I never thought I would do. And I didn't know how to come back from it. So I just kept going with it.
Wow.
And then
He crossed those boundaries.
He crossed those
boundaries
boundaries
that you guys had established.
Yeah. To this day, they still live together.
Mm.
They're oddly live together, but try to secretly act like, I'm still crazy and that affair never happened.
So you guys are divorced.
We're divorced.
Yeah.
They're together. He, on a weekly basis, will call me and ask me if I need anything. It was weird because although it was strange because once he left, he was never really able to fully leave. He would always call me and say, I'll always love you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I meant everything I said, but I crossed a line and there was no turning back after I crossed it. Wow. So it's as hard as this is to say, he's good to me in the way that if I needed anything, because I'm sick, I'm going through chemo and, physically there's things I can't do and financially, and he supported me in every way. Yeah. Financially, anything I needed done around the house. Although I'm going through this, hate for him, I'm bitter and I'm angry and I don't want to talk to you and I don't want you around and I don't want your help. Yeah.
But to leave you in a time where you needed him the most, that had to really, I can't even put that into words, what you felt.
I can't put it into words either. And I had such a hate for him and for her. And
absolutely.
Because I had told her when I confronted her, did he ever tell you I had cancer? And she said no. Mm-hmm. And she did keep saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I thought, if nothing's going on, what are you so sorry about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you divorced. And so as you knew that divorce was inevitable, what were your thoughts? Because, you've been divorced twice, and now this is the thing that you did not want to happen. You wanted your happily ever after. You thought you had it because of how he presented himself. Mm-hmm. He loved you like you had never been loved before. He took care of you. He was very attentive for you. I mean, you were able to just sit back and kick your feet up pretty much.
I was. For the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't have to be strong. I actually had somebody to really lean on.
Yeah.
And that felt so good.
Yeah. It
just felt so good. So when I'm back to this point now, here I am again, feeling tricked. I remember I came into you, mm-hmm. and I said, I know that I'm a good wife. I know I am. Mm-hmm. I know I was giving everything that I had and that they needed the last 2 times. The first time, I gave myself a lot of grace. I was so young. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Mm-hmm. But the next 2 times, I really knew, right? I knew how to be a good wife. And, so I knew that I'd given that twice. Right. And both of those men had cheated on me. And I said to you, I know that I'm a good wife, but why do I keep getting cheated on? Yeah. Why? And you said to me, Kelli, let me ask you some questions. And you asked me about my first memory as a child, mm-hmm. which I thought was odd, but I told you, my first memory of a child was climbing out my bedroom window, going to the neighbor and saying, can you call the police? My mommy needs help. And I was 4 years old. And that was when we got on the journey of my childhood.
We did.
And all the trauma I had been through. And you had said to me, and I'm going to say it, so in case someone else thinks it's corny, you said, your inner child is still making your adult decisions. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, Nneka, your inner child, little Kelli. That's so corny. So corny. I didn't say it. I didn't know,
but you thought it.
I was thinking it. Like, Nneka just got corny on me. Like, I just can't do the little child, inner child, little Kelli.
Right.
I didn't want to.
Right.
But then I agreed.
Yeah.
We're going to go down the childhood road. And we did.
We did.
And it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I discovered so many things in such a short time mm-hmm. that led me to realize that you weren't corny. You were right. My inner child was making my adult decisions. And that's why I kept getting cheated on.
Yeah.
Because there was so much to what had happened to me, from the age I can remember to being, 19 and entering my first, adult relationship and, getting married. And I didn't know that, that hurt little girl was in there making decisions, in my adult life.
Yeah, she needed something, and all three men provided something. Right. So I'm so glad that you're not blaming yourself, but I think all these things unfortunately had to happen to get you where you are today.
Yeah.
It's not in vain. It's definitely not in vain. So when you see this coming, divorce was inevitable.
Yeah.
What were you saying to yourself, Kelli?
I don't know. I honestly, I really don't know. I just couldn't understand. Couldn't understand how somebody had tricked me. It felt like somebody had to pretend it to be everything I wanted.
Yeah.
And I can't say that that's true. That's what I felt like.
That's what you felt.
Felt like he tricked me to pretend to be everything I wanted, right? To get me to love him and to marry him. But I realized that all these men were broken too.
Yes.
And that all those butterflies I thought I was feeling with this man especially, I mean, I just couldn't get enough of him. I thought the butterflies were going crazy, right?
Wow.
We were trauma bonding.
Yeah.
We were trauma bonding. Yeah. He was healing something in me and I was healing something in him, but that won't last.
No.
I learned that he thought that I was healing something in him that he didn't completely understand, right? He had saw himself go through these patterns and had these issues, but he thought, wow, I just finally found the right woman. She's going to love me through it. And I found the right man and he was going to love me through mine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're trauma bonded, but we didn't know that.
No.
We're just like, oh, we're so in love and we found the right one. And, she's making me a better man and thinking he's healing me and taking care of me the way I've always wanted. And
but the sad thing is, and all that you said is so true. The sad thing is that there are people out there that will go through this experience and not learn anything from it.
Yeah.
Not look deeper within and not see that the growth potential that's there. I hear that in your voice that you have grown by leaps and bounds. You have grown, but there are some people who will continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, not asking themselves the hard question, how did I get here? Why do I keep finding myself in the same spot?
Right.
Like, why? It would our world would be so much better is when, because the thing is, we're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
I don't care how good you think your life is, you're going to make some mistakes, but those mistakes allow us to grow and be better. And there are some people who are just not willing to dig deeper and say, like, why am I making these decisions? Why do I feel this way? So they busy themselves with things, with work, with so many different things, so they don't have to let that pain land. Exactly. Because when that pain lands, it's hard. And sometimes you got to get to the hard parts so that you, just like the butterfly, is just like, once it comes out of that cocoon or whatever it is, it's beautiful. But a lot of people don't want to go through those growing pains, so they just ignore it. And then, they're going to continue to make the same mistakes. You don't know when it's going to happen,
right?
But it's going to happen because you have an issue that you are using things and people to numb the pain.
Yes. Self-medicating. A long time ago, I remember feeling like I shouldn't drink anymore. And not that I felt like it was because I had a problem. I felt like for some reason I wasn't supposed to. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It had nothing to do with the,
your faith.
No, it was just me personally. But I feel like now I understand because God didn't want me to numb my pain.
Yep.
He didn't want me to have an avenue to numb my pain. He wanted me to go head on. And it was hard and it hurt and it was painful. And people don't want to have to dig down deep and relive that pain or experience that pain. So they just keep moving on. And I think for him, he was so good at what he did in his career and it gave him such gratification that he was using that, right? But he did say to me that he had decided that he knew he needed counseling. And I said, why? And he said, because I knew when I hurt you, when I hurt you, there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
He said, I could make excuses for all the women before me. She was this, or she was that, or she was this, or she was that. He said, but when I hurt you, I knew that there was something wrong.
Yeah,
and I knew that I
that's
needed help.
powerful. That's powerful. Well, I hope that he gets the help that he needs. Just anyone who's listening, man or woman, it's just like we can't run from our problems.
No.
There's so many opportunities for growth when we experience pain. If we want to dig a little deeper to understand like why we're making the decisions that we make and we're hurting people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like we can't go throughout life hurting people because we're hurt.
I don't even know that we realize we're doing it, right? Because I don't ever think he had any bad intentions. I don't think that he ever wanted to hurt me. I really don't. I've seen him cry so many times and just sob, and break down and pour his heart out and say, the last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt you. Did he hurt me? Yes. Did he cheat? Yes. But I think that it really, I believed he was sincere when he said it finally taught him something about himself.
Yeah.
That he finally thought he found a woman that provided everything he needed and he was going to be okay. But it was much deeper than that. And that's what needed to happen to him in order for him to realize it. And unfortunately for me, I had to repeat this pattern of getting cheated on to come to you and say, why am I getting cheated on?
Yeah.
Why does this keep happening to me? I remember saying, I know I'm a good wife, but I am the common denominator. So what is going on with me that I keep ending up with this type of man?
Well, I think there's an element of us entering in things out of fear of being without. And so if you're getting into a relationship and you fear, oh my gosh, I guess I got to go ahead and do this because if I don't do this, then what? So if we enter in things out of fear or out of concern, and I don't know if you entered into your relationship like your first marriage, was it, were you running from something?
Of course.
Are you running towards something? So it's just like, if we're running from or away from something, we have to pause a bit and say, okay, let me make sure I'm making this decision for the right reasons. Yes. And I think it's just that, like your inner child making decisions, like, oh, this is what I need right now. This feels so good. This feels so safe. This feels home for me right now. Yeah. Even if it's just in the moment, it feels like home and it feels good.
I didn't want to lose that.
You didn't want to lose that.
No, because I remember when I would say to him, like, we're rushing things. I was afraid if I didn't do it in his time and not mine, I was going to lose him. Yeah. And he was home for me.
That was home.
It was. I felt like I finally found what I'd been looking for. Yeah. And so if I didn't go at his pace, I didn't want him to abandon me. Yeah. There we go again, right?
But home starts here. It has to be in the mental.
Absolutely.
There has to be, like you said earlier about this self-love, self-care, just taking care of yourself. It has to start there. And I think, Kelli, you have something in you that men like that gravitate to because you are this nurturing, caring. You're what can I say? You get the job done. You are a doer. You are, you say what you mean what you say.
I do.
It's what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
There's no hidden agendas. Nope. It's what it is. And I think people gravitate. You're a different vibe that some men don't necessarily experience that. So when they experience it, Kelli, there's just like, oh, this feels good. They've never experienced, but they don't know how to keep it, right? They don't know how to keep a Kelli. They know how to get a Kelli, but they don't know how to keep a Kelli.
You had taught me, sometimes you have to toot your own horn. So what I realized about myself is I'm healing for that broken type of man.
Yeah.
Because I just provide a certain feeling, I guess, right?
Home.
I'm home. I'm home for the broken man, right? Or I was.
You was. I'm
not that anymore. I have learned that I was attracting that type of man. And, I hate that it had to happen so many times, but it had to happen so many times for me to get to a point where I wanted to say, what is happening? Why am I attracting this kind of man? And how do I stop it?
Well, I think we need to ask the right questions. I think, is not something that, you can get, you can do perfectly in terms of making sure that, someone doesn't have any problems at all. 'Cause people are going to have issues.
Yes.
People are going to have a past, and that's just the reality. But I think it's important for us to ask questions and not be afraid if I ask this question. At some point, we don't ask it right away, but
Yeah.
at some point we ask the necessary questions so that we can kind of get a sense of, what was your childhood like? You get along with your parents and have, just all those questions that some people may squirm when you ask them. I mean, there's a time and a place to ask those questions, but I think it's important to ask questions. It's important to ask questions, and I think that's where we have to be. Ask the right questions.
I think that, yes, you've taught me that learning. I know you've taught on like dating speed. Right? You don't want to give up too much information at once, but before you enter in a relationship, right, there really are things that you need to know about that person and educating yourself, right? Because the first time I was with an addict, I didn't know the signs of that, right? And just, moving forward. And my last husband was a narcissist. I didn't know the signs of that either. I thought a narcissist couldn't possibly treat me this good. Right? I didn't think the narcissist had an ability to give so much of their self to someone.
Well, they're trying to win you over.
It's the love bombing phase. Now I know. I know all the words, right? It's they love bomb you, right? And the narcissism doesn't come until the end, right? When everything was about him and his career, and it didn't matter if I had cancer, I was sick, or I needed him, right? And so I've really started educating myself, and I think the one more thing that I really want to make sure that I say is that you also taught on the relationship module. It's RAM. I'm not
RAM,
saying,
RAM,
yes, okay.
Relationship attachment model.
There you go. Thank you. I read that and I realized we do that so backwards. Because being physical comes at the end of the relationship module. In the beginning is getting to know someone.
Trust.
Right?
Yeah.
You're getting to know someone. Yep. Then you got to decide, is this person someone I can trust? And then can you rely on this person?
Yes,
right?
Go, Kelli.
I know it. I know
the RAM model.
And then, can I rely on this person? And then when you rely on that, you can rely on that person. That's when you can decide that you're going to get into a relationship. And after all that comes when you are physical. And what happens in our dating world today is that we'll go back. We think it's so cheesy to say, I'm not going to have sex with this person until I'm married. Let me tell you why.
Exactly.
Let me tell you why. You are attaching your soul, your emotions, so much more than your physical body. You are giving to this other person. And when you do that, you aren't going to see those red flags.
No,
You've not. Bypassed all the things that you were supposed to do in the beginning and jumped right to let's get physical. And then you enter a relationship, and then you decide, can I rely on them, and can I trust them, and can I get to know them? And that's the thing, is that people think, oh, that's old fashioned, or that's, just a Christian, or that, no.
Well, keep doing it your way. Right.
No, what it is mentally healthy.
It is.
It's mentally healthy to say, I'm going to get to know you slowly.
You got to have a standard.
I'm going to decide if you're someone I can trust. And then if I think you're trustworthy, can I rely on you in a way? And that's when you got to start asking those questions about your childhood and, this and that, whatever. Because can I rely on you to survive being in a relationship? Are you going to be able to handle being in a relationship? Am I going to be able to rely on you to keep these same standards throughout the whole things? Or are you hurt and broken and unhealed?
And that's why you got to ask those questions. And again, there's nothing perfect, but again, you want someone that can work through the difficult spaces when times do get tough, and don't get distracted and run over here and run over there. It's just like, no, stay with me. Let's go through the pain together. Let's not separate, but let's come together and unite and work through the difficult times together. Kelli, this has been thoroughly a great learning experience for me. I so appreciate you being vulnerable. I appreciate you being brave to share your story. It has been my pleasure to sit before you to hear your story in this way. So I gained a better understanding. So I appreciate that. Do you have any final words as we close? Any final words that you feel like you want our listeners to know? Because we already know that we have to be mindful that it wasn't something that you were doing that made these men, and it's not, and cheating is not the problem. Right. Is symptomatic of something bigger that we all know. Yes. And we all, like I said earlier, a lot of men suffer with mental illness and it goes untreated, undiagnosed. No one says anything about it, but they act in ways that are not necessarily conducive for healthy relationships. So they, you know, numb it with various things. And so we want to encourage our men, though. Women, yeah, I think we're more open to it, but we want to encourage our men to just check your mental health. Yeah, because a lot of times you're making decisions that you wouldn't necessarily make if you had, the tools, yeah. The mental health, that mental wellness that you need. So that's what I want to say. I just feel like I don't want women out there who have been cheated on. I don't want them to blame themselves. Right. It's nothing that you're doing. Nothing. It's nothing that you're doing. It has a lot to do with where that man is in his life. And for that woman who's cheating, same for her, is where you are in life. Because again, it's not the problem. Cheating is not the problem. It's a symptomatic of something bigger, and we have to understand what is that before we start judging and say, "Oh, they're just cheaters, and that's who they are." That's no, it's so much. It's so much bigger than that. We can't stop there.
So my "why do I keep getting cheated on" story goes back to you gotta know the 90% beneath. Yes. For you have to understand it. Mm-hmm. Your partner has to understand theirs. There's no, I'll give 50 and you give 50, mm-hmm. No, you have to be 100% whole yourself. Mm-hmm. Yes. Nobody's going to fill any holes for you. They're not going to make you a better person. Yes. They're not going to heal you. They're, mm-hmm. Don't look to a partner for that. Yeah. No. Nobody is going to heal you. Nope. You are only going to heal yourself, whether it be through therapy, your faith, whatever it is. But until you are one complete whole person, you are just going to take that baggage and you're going to roll it into your next relationship. You're going to get out the baggage from that person, and it just keeps rolling and rolling. And that's why at some point we get to, such a point that we are so damaged from mm-hmm. the things that happen to us and that what other people do to us. And I think that's just I want to say ask questions, but also ask questions from your family. I remember going back and asking my mom questions. Mm-hmm. And my grandma wasn't here for me to ask her, but I realized all those things that I call my lemons now were my mom's lemons and then my grandma's lemons. And at some point, somebody has to stop and say, why is this happening? Why does this keep happening? And what can I do to stop it or to change it? Right?
That's it.
And this is my goal. Yeah. I have decided that I'm going to stop these generational curses that I feel like happened to my grandma was cheated on, my mom was cheated on, I was cheated on. And it's not that there was something wrong with us, but why? Why is that happening? And that's what.
But everybody has their why, and everyone has to seek their why.
Yes.
Right?
So ask your family questions. Ask yourself questions. Ask your therapist questions. Ask the person you're going to date.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I think that's the moral of the story. You have to ask questions. You may not always get the answer, but at least you ask.
You need to fuel yourself with as much knowledge as mm-hmm. you can, right? Yeah. And that's my goal. Yeah. Is, I want the people that are hearing this story, I don't want anybody to suffer unnecessarily. Yeah. So I hope that, everybody that listens can get something.
That's right.
They can apply their life. But for me personally, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to learn and I'm going to teach my children mm-hmm. before it's too late and my grandchildren mm-hmm. because they're not going to go through what I went through.
Yeah. So much more to discuss. I'm going to be honest with you. It's so much more. But I think we have definitely gave our audience something to think about, mm-hmm. something to really look within themselves. Because again, I want to make sure that our listeners understand that it's the importance of not judging a book by its cover, mm-hmm. opening that book up, asking the necessary questions, not blaming yourself. And I think that's so important. When we encounter certain things, know that everyone has a past, everyone has a story. Don't look on the surface. Dig a little deeper and ask some questions. So Kelli, thank you so much.
I want to say one last thing. Mm-hmm. Don't make decisions out of fear.
That's right.
Right? Fear of what may come or what may not. Don't do it. Don't do it. Someone told me one time, when you feel fear, you got to ask yourself, is this just fear or is it intuition?
Yeah.
And I felt like that's just really important.
Yeah,
One last thing I want to say, don't make decisions out of fear.
No, that's a good ending
Don't
point.
make them. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Kelli. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Why do I always end up with a cheater? You have been a breath of fresh air. Again, I thank you so much for being vulnerable. And I know you're going to take this where it needs to be. This is not the end here for you in terms of...
Look out for my lemonade story.
There you go. And what's your social media account?
It's the lemonade stand.
And that's on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
The lemonade stand. That's awesome. Thanks for joining today's episode. If you enjoyed the story time, don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a review and share with your friends to help us reach more listeners. Stay tuned for more insightful stories. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new connections with us.